Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Takes a lot to change, man. Hell, it takes a lot to try.
You know, man, in the old days, I always knew, like, you were gonna do something, that you'd be all right. It's the first time I'm worried about you.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Okay.
Tell me something, girl.
Do you write songs or anything?
I don't sing my own songs.
Why?
I just don't feel comfortable.
Why wouldn't you feel comfortable?
Almost every single person has told me they liked the way I sounded, but that they didn't like the way I look.
I think you're beautiful.
I'll fall left
Hey,
What?
I just want to take another look at you.
in all the good times. I find myself longing for change.
Here's what we're gonna do.
You come sing that song that I love.
No, I can't do that.
Here we go.
Jack, it's not funny. Jack.
Look at me.
All you gotta do is trust me. That's all you gotta do.
We're far from the shallow now.
Can we get everyone to look to the left, to the front, Sam, this way? Right? Anybody here, right up front? Do something fun, let's do a boomerang. Come on, there we go.
How are you?
Everybody, thank you so much.
You guys are excited, aren't you?
Hello, Toronto!
This is a very exciting night for us.
I'm really freaking excited to be here tonight.
What a great audience.
I'm so excited to be here. It's such a great honor.
And I'm so honored to be able to show my film to this august crowd.
What's really fun is people who love film, and you are all that. And we're very proud and happy to be here with all of you.
We should not be afraid to tell stories because
You for giving us the opportunity and a platform to be able to showcase our work as female filmmakers.
this is for my parents who couldn't come, so thank you. I'm going to prove it to them. I did it!
I've just realized what TIFF actually stands for. Toronto is fantastic.
This is the story of our city, and we're a very proud city, and I want the world to see it.
Nice. This is our 10-second pause. Yeah. Perfect. I was just thinking, I wish I had 10 more. Look at this picture right here.
It's kind of blowing my mind to sit here and look at you two with that behind you. Wow. Welcome to the assembled members of the press and to the cast and director of A Star Is Born. Thank you so much for this film. I was telling you backstage how much I enjoyed it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Not only is it a terrific film, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to ask about just off the top. And one of them was that one of the overarching themes in this movie is about being true to yourself, creating art that speaks to you specifically, and then hopefully that will find an audience. If it's authentic, it will. And I can't help but wonder that in a time when the arts are kind of under siege in a lot of ways, government funding is being cut and that sort of thing, if there's a message in this film regarding that.
Well, first of all, thanks for having us. And it's great to have the whole cast. This is the first time we've all been together since we shot the movie. So it's pretty cool just for me to see all these incredible artists here. I'm such a lucky person to have worked with them. That was never anything conscious. I mean, funding for the arts and a plea for it to grow is something that's kind of a age-old tradition at this point, right? I mean, dating back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So I mean, that's as long as one can create content that's compelling. I mean, I think that's the biggest motivator to help fund it, isn't it?
Listen, that to me was one of the messages of the film. Yeah. What was it then about this story? It's been 3 years at least of this journey to get here. What was it about this story that drew you in so much?
You know, the truth is, it's not one thing. It's been just a sequence of sonic ideas and compositions and meeting people and saying, like, you know, and I love faces and eyes and voices, and all of these people have incredible character that I just was obsessed with putting on film. And then I have such a unique dynamic with each one, and they have with each other. And so in terms of the human element, that was all inspirational, and it kept evolving depending on who was going to be in the movie, which, as you can tell, you know, it's very specific to who they are. But it really was, you know, probably started about 6 years ago when I was at a Metallica concert, and I was behind Lars Ulrich's drum kit, and I saw the scope, the proscenium of that, and I thought, oh, just to be on the stage the whole time, that's how I want to see a movie. I've never seen a movie where all the concert footage is, you're always on the stage. So really, and I wanted to tell a love story. And it was also, you know, just not to get too specific, but it was Annie Lennox singing the cover of I Put a Spell on You, and I was looking at the veins in her neck and how pure it was, and I thought, well, that's the best way. If I could have that in the movie, because you can't hide when you're singing. So it was just a bunch of elements, but all at the epicenter is Lady Gaga. I mean, she was the one that propelled the whole thing.
Let's talk about working on this film, creating the character of Allie. It's tremendous work. The reviews, I don't know if you read reviews, but the reviews are
She's not reading
unbelievable.
them.
You know what? in this case, you should.
Advice.
But it's fantastic, and I love the stories that I've heard about working with Bradley on this. And there were a couple of keywords that you would use when he was directing you. So if you wanted a feeling of warmth, he would whisper the word Tony to you to make you think of Tony Bennett. And there were a number of others. Can you just tell me about that process and how it made you feel and drew the performance out of you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today, Richard, and thank you all for being here. I feel very, very honored to be sitting on this stage with these tremendously talented human beings and kind and loving human beings who I'm happy to call my friends now. You know, I think Bradley is an incredible filmmaker, and I have acted before, but I've never been a lead actress in a feature film. And every day on set was such a thrill to watch him work. It was such a thrill to act in the environment that he created. He operates with such precision, and he has such a vision, and you can see the gears turning while he's working, even while he's in character at the same time. And, you know, yes, he would whisper things to me like Tony or come on, assassin, or ninja. And we would pound each other, you know. And what it helped me do was to, you know, I had the lines memorized. He told me the most important thing was to know what I was trying to say, to tell the story that I was meant to tell in that scene. And then when we got on set, I could just throw it all away and exist in this precise but completely liberating environment. It was not rigid. It was a very artistically free experience, and I'm very, very grateful to him for believing in me. So thank you, Bradley.
One of the things that I thought about the performance is that often, if I notice the actor thinking, if I can see the thinking, it takes me out of the performance. And I didn't see you as an actor thinking, I saw your character thinking. And that, to me, is a huge difference. And it just felt as though it was extemporaneous, a lot of what was happening. I know it's not, but it felt that way to me watching you perform.
Thank you. I think a lot of that had to do with the immense trust that we all share. And he says it in the film to me before I go on his stage. When we sing Shallow together, he says, all you got to do is trust me. And it was very much like that every day on set. So there was never a moment where I was thinking, oh, I should move my head this way, or maybe the camera should shoot me like this. That's his vision and his storytelling. And I just wanted to be a vehicle for him to tell this beautiful story.
Sam, your character, and I'll speak around it because I don't want to give anything away here for people that haven't seen it, but it's a really complex character because you are at once filled with love and wisdom, but there's a resentment there. That's all I'll say about it because I don't want to give anything more away. Tell me about just finding the right balance to bring this guy to life and make him interesting and watchable and someone that we want to spend some time with.
I think it just starts with what's on the page, and it was clearly there from the get-go, and it was, beyond that, it was in Bradley's head in spades, as, Stephanie just said. I think when you start out and you have, there's that old adage, if it ain't on the stage, it ain't on the page, or vice versa, and I've always been a believer in that, but in terms of how I got there, I'd never crossed paths with Bradley before I started on this film, and I'd always been a fan and knew his work, obviously, but was kind of intrigued that this young man was going to be a first-time director on this particular vehicle, and he convinced me very early on, like 5 minutes into our first encounter, that he could be trusted, and I think, it's, as Stephanie said, I mean, trust is a huge part of this game. When you're trying to get at the truth, you've got to be able to trust someone, and Bradley just, he set such a tone that, I've been at this a long time, and if I haven't figured out something by now, then odds are I never will, And I would, again, I mean, Stephanie's so eloquently laid it out, I think, for all of us. It's just, Bradley had this vision of telling this incredible tale, this very human tale, set against this incredible backdrop, this music backdrop, and I'm just honored to be part of it and happy to be part of it and do my bit. I've always thought that actors were just part of the crew, on a voyage, on a long voyage, and you hope the guy that's standing helm has a vision and knows where he's going, and this man sure did.
Well, with that voice, you say if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. I would listen to anything that you would read off a page, though, with that voice. Unbelievable. I work in radio here. I would kill to have a voice like that. Dave, you play Noodles in the film, an old friend of Jack's, and you have a scene, again, without giving anything away, that shows the different paths in life that the two characters have taken. You've settled down, you've created a life for yourself with a child and a white picket fence.
You're giving a lot away. I'm totally kidding. I'm sorry, man.
I'm not giving the heart of it away, but. There's But I found a quote from you where you talk about that Jack has the life that you might have had you taken a different path. Like in that you stepped away from all of this for a little while to start a family. And was that something that made this script and this story more appealing to you?
Well, I think me and Bradley with this picture have a very interesting narrative. I don't know if you remember when I hosted Saturday Night Live and I did a joke about meeting Bradley at the White House.
Yeah.
But we always met at these really grand occasions, like the Manny Pacquiao fight. I don't even know if you remember this. Was the first time I met you. I was sitting right behind you. You're real nice, but I know you had no idea who I was.
Not true.
And then, we met again at the White House, and
no, the first time, Elephant Man.
Oh, that's
Come on.
right.
Yeah.
Jesus, we were in London. We were in London, and I met Bradley at a hotel, and I ended up going to see him at the West End playing the Elephant Man, which, by the way, was fantastic. But I mean, we had like an authentic rapport when we would talk to one another and stuff, and when he asked me to do the movie, he sent me the script, and I just never read the script. You know, because a lot of people want to be actors. I like to pretend. You know what I mean? But I trust Bradley. Like we had an authentic rapport, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So when I get to set, you know, Bradley has a way of directing. You'd almost have to see it to believe it. To act in a movie and direct looks hard. Yeah. And like Stephanie said, sometimes he'd be Jack directing, and sometimes you wouldn't even know you were shooting. You'd just be talking. And I'd be like, why is Bradley talking like this? Oh, he's Jack! But it was like, it almost felt like a jam session.
Yeah.
It was like an actors having a jam session. It was like a rhythm. It was like what you call vibes. Yeah. There was like these palpable vibes, and I mean, everyone really liked each other. You know, in the script they're supposed to like each other, but it became real. So it was a very unique experience as far as my career. I do, you know, mostly comedies and silly movies. It's unlike anything I've ever done, and it was a real palpable vibe on the set that I think, from what I hear, translates to the screen amazingly.
Yes, it does. And, you know, it was interesting watching all of you backstage and seeing the easy rapport that you have with one another that doesn't seem forced and doesn't seem, you know, like sort of Hollywood in any way. Yeah. It was fun to watch you guys back there. Anthony, you play Allie's best friend in the film. Tell me a little bit about shooting the scenes, because you're in at the, and I don't know, this wasn't shot in any kind of sequence, was it? Or
I mean, we tried to. We had to adhere to some certain dates that we wanted to get to things that were open. But no, we tried to do it as sequentially as possible. I always think that's a key thing to do.
So tell me a little bit about your experience of shooting and working with Jack and or Bradley as a director /
it was for sure both.
Character.
It was both. Yeah, it was great, man. I mean, Stephanie's a beast. Oh my gosh, like.
That's my man.
Yo, like, you know, it was a blessing learning from her every day. It was constant, like, when somebody's so available, you can't help but to open up, you know? It's like, and if you don't, you're like a liar. I was like, I'm not trying to lie. And it was just amazing. You know, Bradley, I talk to people all the time. Like, I was hanging out with Spike on set the other day. Spike Lee. Sorry, my bad.
Name drop.
My bad. I name dropped.
That's my good friend, Spike.
Yeah. Yo, but really, I was about to, you know, I was about to land on the dot, on the point. You feel me? Like, I was chilling with Spike, and I'm like, yo, Bradley's gonna go down as one of the greatest directors of all time. Like, the level of focus on set. I'm talking, I would stay on set and watch Bradley work in between takes, only because I was like, yo, he's gonna be one of the greats. And I got, if I'm trying to be where he's at, I'm gonna stay right here in the cut, and I'm gonna watch my man work. I'm gonna watch him set up this next shot, you know, and this, you know, it's dope playing this role, because he's, you know, Ramon he's a real one. He's, you know, I think anybody who's on the rise, or, you know, you're doing anything, you become successful or whatever, and whatever you do, I think it's important to keep real people in your life, you know, and I think when we lose those people, we start to lose ourselves. I think those people help us remind us who we are, you know, who we were and who we are. And I love being able to be that guy for her in the movie. So yeah, it was awesome. It was a great experience, man.
I'm going to turn it over to the press now, and we've got microphones. Please be sure to announce where you're from, and we'll bring a microphone to you, and I'll start here.
Hi, Lauren Bradshaw, Cloture Club in Washington, D.C.
Fake news. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I just got in this morning.
Fake news. Gaga and Bradley, I have a quick question for you guys. What can you talk about singing live for the film and how it differs from singing in a concert where you're doing multiple takes?
Singing in a concert, but I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Just singing one song all the way through.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, singing live was there really was no question. I have the real deal in the movie, so the whole movie, the authenticity of everything, what it is to set up to put on a concert, and besides just every character being real, it all had to be up to her level. So, you know, I sort of feared it, but when we first met, you know, Stephanie was very adamant about it, and it was the truth. I just didn't know how I was going to get there, but I worked with this incredible vocal coach, Roger Love, as well as worked for a short time with your coach, Don Lawrence, and just I had no idea how hard it is. It's one thing to sing in the shower; it's another thing to sing in front of 20,000 people. Your endorphins are running, and your breath goes. That's the first thing that goes. So I thought, oh, well, that's not going to work. So luckily, I had the time. We really shot all of the, well, first of all, we jumped on stages. So that's what threw me when you said multiple takes. I mean, the opening of the movie we shot in 8 minutes, and we jumped on the stage. Jamie Johnson was kind enough to let us come on, and Willie Nelson. So we had 8 minutes, and then we went to Glastonbury and shot for 4 minutes before Chris Christopherson went on in front of 80,000 people. So there really weren't multiple takes. But the stuff that we were able to orchestrate, it was really important that it all felt like one flowing thing. So the scene, we started shooting the scene when she gets out of the car, and we brought her all the way up to the stage. And then we had to cut there, but then we started again. She listened to the whole song and brought her out on stage, and we sang the whole song. That was all one. We would never stop. Because I wouldn't know how to do that. If the rhythm of it is, you know, we would start acting a lot if we kept stopping. And by the way, Sam and I did that too. Our car ride, we started, got in the car, and the scene ended when I closed the car and left. And I learned that from Derek C. in France. I did a movie called Place Beyond the Pines, and he's very adamant about that. Anytime you could help create it and make it as real as possible, that's the way to do it.
Go ahead, yeah, right here. We'll sort of do it in order here. We'll get to everybody.
Hello, Mathieu Chantelois from Cineplex in Quebec. First, Lady Gaga let me know that it's so refreshing to have somebody singing in French in a movie and taking the time to learn the lyrics properly. Nobody else does this in Hollywood. For us, it's a crash every time that we are French. My question is about the scene with the drags in club, and it's for you, Mr. Cooper, probably you, Anthony, and Lady Gaga. Mr. Cooper, where did you add the idea to shoot inside of drag queen cabaret? And probably Lady Gaga, your character is saying that it was a true honor to work with these gay girls. That's the way you call them in the film. Was it really an honor for you as well to shoot these scenes?
You know, the opening of the movie, cracking the structure of that opening of the movie was one of the hardest things to do, because it was important that you understood who these two characters were in a very short period of time. And Eric Roth and I at the time, who were writing the script, we sat down with Stephanie for hours and hours and would record conversations, and then he and I would work through it afterwards and think about what we could implement. I saw her sing La Vie en Rose. That was the first time I ever heard her sing live at a Sean Parker cancer benefit the night before I went and met her. And she just leveled the entire room when she came out. It was insane. And I thought, right then, that's in the movie, because that was also the first time I saw her sing. So it worked out kind of perfectly. And then we were talking about this idea of a drag bar, and where she used to sing in the Lower East Side in New York, and it all just started to be cultivated. And then I think you suggested Shangela, and then I met Willem. Willem is like gold. Yeah. And when we showed up on set, and Karen Murphy, the production designer, just recreated the Virgil, this bar, into this incredible place, and it just had a vibe. It felt like we were there for 2 months. We shot there for a day. I think it was a day or a day and a half, and it just had this energy, and we just soaked it up. And I just started to spend time with Willem and Shangela, and then it really became magical. It really was a magical couple of days. It was incredible.
It was an absolute dream of a scene and moment for me in this film. I make a joke sometimes that behind every female icon is a gay man. And you know, I really wouldn't be here without the gay community and what they have taught me about love and acceptance and bravery. And this scene was so special. I loved singing La Vie en Rose. I've sang it before. The challenge for this, what I tried to focus on, was that I was not at a Sean Parker event performing as myself, but I was Allie singing La Vie en Rose, so I sing it a little bit differently. And you know, I think one of the most beautiful moments in this film is when she walks through the tinsel and she hears him playing a song where he says the lyrics, "Maybe it's time to let the old ways die," to the drag queens as they're sitting there. And I think to myself, she's falling in love with this man because she sees he has empathy, he has compassion, he has love, he's a kind person. It's such a special moment in the film, and I also thought that he, as a filmmaker, executed it with perfect authenticity. I don't feel for a second when I'm watching those scenes that I'm not in a real drag bar.
Andrea Case? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Andrea Case, CTV News, Toronto. Okay, all of you broke my heart in this film, first of all, and that is a good thing. Bradley, can you talk a little bit about becoming a musician, playing the guitar? As you just said, you shot it in 8 minutes. We would have all obviously thought that it was take after take after take, but it was brilliant. And Lady Gaga, can you talk about songwriting? Can you both talk about songwriting? Because we can hear these songs in our minds on the radio. They are real songs. They're not just something you drop in a film to bridge something. The songs are almost like a character in the film for both of you.
Absolutely.
Well, all the lyrics forward the story.
Yeah, there's not
That's
one
the crazy thing about
no,
it.
yeah. I mean, the music, the songs are a complete character in the movie, and there's not one lyric that's not purposefully put that's either reflecting where a character's at, what the relationship is, or what they're yearning for. So it's constantly propelling or reflecting on what you're seeing while it's happening. It was a very amorphous thing that was cultivated along with the script. I mean, we were changing and implementing songs depending on, you know, weeks before we were, or days before, or on the day.
On the day.
We had this sort of arsenal of music that was being cultivated. We would sort of leave the set and then go to the studio and work. But in terms of my own evolution as a musician, it's 100% due to this person right here. And it's odd because so much of our relationship is reflected or reflects from what the relationship of Allie and Jackson. I mean, she really gave me the confidence from the very first time I met her. We were singing together 10 minutes into meeting, which I don't know how that happened.
And I was freaking out over his voice, like going, I can't believe how incredible your voice is.
But it really gave me the confidence to then really work on it. And then we started writing songs. I started writing songs and arranging songs, and her masterful ability to cultivate talent. That's the thing that, I mean, we all know that she's so talented, but she's such a cultivator of talent and so selfless with her, not giving her knowledge and enthusiasm to other people, which was really wonderful. And that created a harmony of all the writers. Jason Isbell wrote an amazing song, Mark Ronson, Hillary Lindsay. Lucas Nelson, I cannot say enough about.
Yes.
Lucas Nelson, who I saw at Desert Trip, and it was on the Jumbotron, and I love the way Neil Young plays the guitar, and a lot of Jackson, I like that muscular way that he plays. I didn't want it to be sort of lyrical, but I found myself looking at Lucas Nelson on the Jumbotron, who was playing right next to him, and I met him the next day, and his band winds up being Jackson's band, and he was integral to the creation of the sound of the music.
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Karen Bliss from Billboard. We've lost so many artists, young and veterans, to addiction, and I'm just wondering, the two of you being, you know, in the entertainment business for as long as you have, and, you know, just that environment and the story for A Star Is Born, if you have any insight into the obligations of managers and label people and publicists and assistants and even family.
You know, I think what would be wonderful, not just for artists, but for the whole world, is that we intervene early in life when we see people struggling. I think that fame is very unnatural, and we see that Jack is struggling in this film. There's substance abuse, there's trauma. Allie also, I believe, for me, she suffered from depression at the beginning of the film, not believing in herself. And I think that it's important that we, you know, guide artists and take care of them on a psychological level as they begin to rise, because everything changes. And the truth is, people think that we change, but it's not us that changes, it's everyone around us that changes. And if we could be more careful with the human spirit, not just for the artists, but for everyone, I think that intervening early, teaching people about kindness, teaching people about compassion, teaching people about how to reach out and be there for someone, even when they don't even know that they're sad. And it might be so deep that they can't even pinpoint it. I think that that's very important, and I think it's something that's touched on in this film as well.
Very well said.
Go ahead, yeah.
Hi, amazing film, absolutely loved it. My question is for Bradley. I went to see The Elephant Man in 2014, and after the show, you gave me advice that changed the trajectory of my life as an actor and as a drama student. So I just wanted to know.
God, what did I say?
What was the advice? You can't
and tell me so I can learn.
It actually was in the film that in the next week I had an audition with the cast and director of Limitless, coincidentally, but it had a lot to do with your individualism is your strength and not trying to be like everybody else. And the cast and directors need you more than
I would
you
say,
them.
never mind. I was thinking.
So my question to you is, as a director and as a writer of this film, since this is your first time being a director, what advice changed the way that you approach this filmmaking?
You know, thank you for saying that. You just made my day. Did we meet? I said that to your face? Yes. Yeah, I was going to say, I know maybe it's crazy, but I feel like I remember it. Oh, okay. Yeah. The advice that I got was posthumously. It was I watched a documentary with Mike Nichols. It was like a week before we started shooting, and I think it was a Q&A that he had done close to his death, actually. And they asked him how he approaches directing, and he said, "I approach it the same way I approach acting. I prepare as much as I can. I show up on set and I throw it all away." And that really gave me the license, the confidence, the courage, because that is how I act, and I thought. That it feels like that's how I wrote the script. It's how we collaborated and prepped. It's how we've talked about it for 2 years, you know, when we were just morphing it. It's how we all did it on set. And hearing Mike Nichols do that and seeing the work that he had done, I thought, okay, that gave me the confidence to do it like that.
Yeah, let's go right there.
Yeah. Wait, did you get the part? Like, what happened?
I didn't get the part, but I was on Law & Order last season.
You go right. Yeah, go ahead. Thanks. And then we'll go to you.
Okay. Hi, Bradley. Neil Smith from BBC News in the UK. Could you say a little something about shooting in Glastonbury? And were the crowd receptive? Did the weather play its part? And the mud there is famous. So how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I can't say enough about Glastonbury. Glastonbury is, if no question, I've gone the past 6 years. This last summer was fallow, so it was the first time I missed it. But it helped propel everything that this movie is. I was able to, you spend 4 days there, and I learned so much about just the inner workings of what it is to put on a show. So to actually be there, and that Nick and Emily, who it's the largest privately owned music festival in the world, and it is the place that makes careers and can rejuvenate careers. There's that 3 p.m. slot on Saturday that Lionel Richie did and Dolly Parton, and it just recatapulted them. And it's a really magical place. It's a magical place. And you watch major, huge musicians still get nervous. They talk about playing the Pyramid Stage at Glastonbury is still this place of fear and beauty. And so it is a really incredible festival that I urge everybody to go to if you can. And Nick and Emily were kind enough. I don't know if anybody's ever shot a fictional movie there. Glastonbury has been portrayed in movies, but it hasn't been Glastonbury. And it's a crazy story. Chris Christopherson, who came to set, happened to be playing Glastonbury last summer. And I asked him if we could, because they said, we'll let you come on the Pyramid Stage, but you have to let somebody play into your set, time-wise. And he said, sure. So Maddie Libatique, myself, Steve Marr, the sound guy, that was it. We went to Glastonbury. My buddy usually handled the other camera just because we knew we had 4 minutes. And it was unbelievable. I just didn't want the movie, I didn't want this to make a movie about music without Glastonbury being an element. I wanted those flags. I wanted what that, you know, so people who know music will be like, oh, yeah, that's Glastonbury.
Icon London Magazine. Listening for you here, it seems like there is a large place for synchronicity or these magical coincidences during the filmmaking or film preparation to the film. Like you mentioned, you've heard Stephanie singing live just the day before you went to see her. So I'm wondering, does the synchronicity or these little coincidences, does it play a large part in filmmaking, you believe?
I think it plays a large part in life. I think true art can only be created if you're completely open for moments to occur. And I think that's what I hope was the fun that we all had on set every day. You know, I remember Dave and I, you know, we would go back in the house. Like, once we left that house and sat on that bench, it was like we were in this live universe, right? And then we would huddle in between and just talk through stuff. What about this idea, that? And then we'd go back into this large universe where you don't know what's going to happen. You know, and the more I know that I stay open, the more art can be created. And if I'm thinking about it too much, I'm dead. We were talking about this last night. You know, it's the only way that I know that because really art is just something that's out there, and then if you're open, it flows through you. It's nothing that you really create. That's the way it feels experientially, to me at least.
I feel like you also like make an environment where you can channel that kind of inspiration. Like something about the culture you set. I'm telling you, man, it's very unique. It was really fun to be there. It's like beautiful to be there.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So I guess so those moments you're talking about occur because of that, and then we use the word synchronicity for that.
Hi, Justin Gerhardt from Queer Network News. This is for Lady Gaga, Stephanie. Just talking a little bit about the transformation that you've made personally from being Lady Gaga, this huge queer pop icon, and then we've seen you start to act more and more and more, and we've seen it all be stripped away. So just a bit about that for you and what that's been like, and how the queer community has influenced some of that.
Thank you, Justin. You're welcome. Well, I do love makeup, and I love fashion and costumes and drag, and I do a lot of it myself. But, you know, sort of tying into the last question, I think it was the friendship that we developed together where I really trusted him in exposing myself in a way that I've never exposed myself before. He wanted no makeup on my face. During the screen test, he took a makeup wipe and wiped it down my face, and I was like trying to trick him with my no makeup. And he looked at the makeup wipe, and it was all brown and concealer, and he was like, "Take it off." So we took it all off, and I dyed my hair my natural color quite a bit before we started filming because I wanted to get into the character. And it was a challenge, but it was also very liberating. And to me, anytime I'm doing anything, especially with an actor of his caliber, and I've always been such a huge fan of Bradley, and was so excited to be the first, lead actress in his film, I wanted to give everything that I had, every last drop of blood, everything, all my fear, all my shame, all my pain, all my love, all my kindness, everything. I wanted to give it to him, and I wanted to give it to everyone on this couch. So what I will say is just that, I think a lot of it has to do with the family that was created, and that came from the top. And every single person on set, from the cast to the crew, from the top to the bottom, we were a family, and every day was beautiful. And as far as my relationship with the gay community, like I said before, I would not be here without the gay community and how they have wrapped their arms lovingly wrapping their arms around me. It's something I'm very grateful for, and it's something that I'm also very grateful for that Bradley honored in the film. I think it's very beautiful, and to be honest, I just feel very lucky to be here. I'm a East Coast Italian American from New York who dreamed of being an actress, and I didn't make it, so I gave up and pursued singing, and I'm here today because this man believed in me, and that's also a lot of what this story is about, is the power of believing in someone and what that can do for the human spirit. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Diana from Closer Weekly. So, Lady Gaga. So, having done this project, has it made you?
Did you say Claire?
Oh, I'm right here.
Oh,
yes.
Is your name Claire?
Is your name Claire?
No, Diana.
Oh, Diana. So I heard Claire. Claire?
We'll go to Claire next.
Okay.
So
Diana.
just having done this, has it made you want to put your singing career on hold to take on more acting gigs? And if you could share like an update on your health, if you're ready, to take over Vegas for your residency.
Well, yes, I'm definitely ready to take on my residency at Vegas. Very excited about that. This film was so special. This entire experience was life-changing. I have never had an artistic experience like this before. We were talking last night. I don't know that I've ever had a closer artistic friendship with someone as I do with Bradley, an understanding, an exchange. It meant a lot to me, and I think to both of us, that at the beginning of making this film, we sort of shook hands literally and said, he said to me, "You are an actress." I said to him, "You are a musician." And we made that exchange. And yes, I'm very excited to act more, but I'm not excited to act more because I'm interested in looking for career moves, or what's going to, blast me off to outer space, or however people think about it. For me, it is all about the project. It is all about the process. It is all about the work, and that is what he is all about. I mean, the preparation that he put into making this film was undeniably spectacular. He was not just writing the film, acting in the film, directing the film. He was also writing music for the film, working in the studio. And I remember a time when we were in there working on a song for him, and I tell this story. I don't know if you like it when I tell this story, but I think it's a great story. And I was sitting at the console, and we were listening back, and Lucas Nelson was there, and Jack's whole band. And Bradley came in, and he was like, "This isn't Jackson's sound. What is this? This isn't what he sounds like. This isn't it." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I got a musician on my hands." And I loved that so much because, it was so important to me that no one told him who he was supposed to be as an artist. Just like for me in my career, I've never wanted someone to tell me who I am. And it was really just a privilege to watch him work in all of these different ways. I wish I could, I'm so glad you're going to see the movie, but in a way I wish I could give to all of you what we all got to experience working with him, because it was really an honor and a privilege to witness.
There's a question right in the back who's trying to get to me here. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Guy in the back. Yep, you're waving. Standing up right there. Yep. Yep. Just blast it out. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Hello, Juan Carlos Garcia from Mexico. This question is for Stephanie. You play a character that is struggling to get opportunities in the music industry, and also it was very hard for you to get an opportunity, but you finally got it. Do you remember who was the person that finally trusted you for starting your career and getting this very big chance?
My dad. I remember so much as a child sitting at the piano writing music, and my dad would lay back on the couch and he would sort of tap and listen, and he'd be like, "Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a good lyric. Yeah, that's a good melody. You got that. Yeah, and that is that the chorus? Yeah, that should be the chorus." And I remember from when I was very young that encouragement and that nourishment to be an artist. That was so crucial to who I am as a person. I don't know who I would be if I had parents that didn't encourage me to be a creative. And and also speaking to this film, there can be 100 people in the room and 99 don't believe in you, and just one does, and it can change everything. And I wouldn't be here if Bradley didn't believe in me. So my dad and also Bradley.
Go ahead right here, waving your hand. Yep. Wait for the microphone. We're getting to you. Yeah. Thanks.
Hi, Mr. Cooper. It seems that you continue to challenge yourself. I saw you too in Elephant Man. You were terrific. You produced American Sniper. What was your biggest challenge here directing? And if it's something you will want to pursue in the future?
If I have the opportunity, if a place like Warner Brothers would allow me, yeah, that's all I'd like to do. I've never been more fulfilled than this process. The hardest thing was knowing that all of these people on the couch trusted me. The fact that they gave their blind trust in me was terrifying and motivating. So I would say that was, and to really believe it. So the preparation, that was the hardest part. You know, starting to sing, realizing that I really couldn't, starting to learn the guitar and the piano, realizing I really couldn't. Directing shots, compositions, that never terrified me. It really was, and then breaking the script, what's the story, serving her, serving all of these actors, making sure that everybody was, I really love all the characters in this movie, and I wanted to, and I learned this from David O. Russell. It's like, if you get actors of this caliber in your movie, you better serve them. And I wanted to make sure that each person, no matter how small the role, is served. Their talent is served and lasts throughout the movie. So that was sort of, you know, having their trust and wanting to oblige them was the most terrifying.
And yeah, right here in the back. We haven't gone to anyone in the back yet. So yeah, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Nicola Saminatha, Reuters. This is a question for Bradley Cooper. I'm just wondering if you could talk about your decision in choosing this film as your first movie as a director, particularly given that there are 3 previous versions, and what were the challenges you faced in making this fresh and new, and how did you overcome them?
It was I spoke about it initially, it's sort of a sequence of moments, but I guess the crux of it was a love story. I mean, movies have healed me my whole life. They've taken me to places in my imagination, in my life, that without them I would never have gone. And I don't want to make art in a box. None of us do. Ultimately, we want to show, as hard as it was to give the movie over, it is the goal. It belongs to you now. And I wanted to. And so in thinking of that, you know, a love, if every human being, if they're lucky enough, they've experienced love and the loss of that love in their life. So there's something very, very important or potentially important there. And then music, as I talked about, hearing Annie Lennox. So that was the sort of, and then Clint Eastwood was going to direct the movie, and that's when The Property came. And then it just kept ruminating. And then finally I saw the opening of the movie, which is not the opening of the movie now. And that was the fuel for a while. But I guess those elements, but it really was a culmination of things. I always knew I wanted to direct. Since I was a kid, I just was terrified of it. But as I get older, time is the biggest currency. And that's why I thought, you know what, I'm going to be 40 at that time, and it's time to do it.
We just have time for one more question. Andrea, go ahead.
Bradley, Mr. Cooper, can you talk a little bit about the rest of the casting? Everyone here is terrific, and I don't think I'm giving anything away if anyone reads credits to know who plays your father in the film, Lady Gaga. Can you talk about Andrew Dice Clay? Can you talk about casting people in this film and how they came to you? Because I didn't recognize them until I literally saw the credits.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about directing movies, you get to cast them. I mean, that's sort of the most fun part of the whole deal. Half the crew acts in the movie. Half the crew's in the movie. It's like, no, you come in. No, you're going to do it. Yeah. Half the producers are in the movie. Yeah. Andrew Dice Clay, man. You know, I memorized his album when I was in 8th grade. I used to do it to my friend's chagrin at the train station behind the high school, and they were like, shut up already. And then I remember seeing Ford Fairbanks, and I was like, this guy can act. And then he did that other movie where he wore the red V-neck sweater about dating that he was great in, and then Blue Jasmine, and then in the Martin Scorsese pilot of, you know, the music, what was that called? Vinyl, yeah. Todd Phillips, though, I have to give credit to. He said, at that point I was thinking about another actor, and I was developing with that other actor, and then he said, you know, Andrew Dice Clay may want to come in and play one of the father's drivers. And I said, Andrew Dice Clay? I said, oh my God, how did I never even think about this? And so I went and met with them for like 4.5 hours. I thought it was going to be like 10 minutes. And then and he was so nice enough to come to the studio, and we were working, and I needed to see them together. And I also, it's very important. I wanted her to feel comfortable, and I had to see that it worked. And he came in, and we worked on a scene, and it was insane. I mean, it was like everything else here, man. It was like, talk about that synchronicity that you spoke of. It was one of those moments where, you know, indelibly he is Lorenzo Campana.
Yes, and I felt such a close connection to him as my father. I felt like I was home when we were filming those scenes. He's a tremendous actor and is so versatile and so funny as well. I absolutely will never forget shooting those scenes with him and all the drivers. It was a very, very special time.
I
Eddie
loved all
Griffith
the other
Jr.
drivers.
And Llewellyn was great. You know, there's some great. Ron Rifkin, who I did Alias with, plays the head of the rehab, and Greg Grunberg, who I did Alias with also. So I was really able, and then Gabe Fazio, who I went to grad school with, and Derek, who's singing at the drag bar, went to grad school with. So it's really fun when you get to direct.
It was a love fest.
Yeah. That's all the time we have. They're going to take you all away from us,
Thank
but
you.
thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.